So either I am like the most unluckiest person, or this is just my fate. Every single thing to do with this rooftop tent install has just been perpetually delayed, typically with deliveries, and as of very recently, the ice age that's happening in Florida. That being said, a couple of things to report. So one of the things is that I had a family member talk me into getting quick release rooftop tent mounts, and at first I was in complete denial over it, and I was like, I don't know about that. And then the longer I thought about it, I was like, okay, you know what, let's just do it. So there's a whole bunch of companies. I'm not, it's up to you if that's what you want to do. The benefit to this is that since I have to install this darn thing anyways, what happens if I have to take it off? The convoluted process of attaching it to my do-it-yourself contraption is going to be painful enough. So if I could, I don't know, maybe make my life a little bit easier. So the premise behind this is made by a company called Frontrunner something. I bought it off eTrailer.com, but you could also buy it off their website. They're selling kits of 2, 4, and 6. I couldn't get the 6 because I don't have the middle beam. If you install it in a traditional bed rack, or if you have one of those racks that has, I would probably go with the 6. That being said, so the first complaint that I have about it is that this mechanism doesn't actually hold anything. This button over here is supposed to be there, which is this right there. Supposed to keep this locked, right? But it doesn't. It's very fickle. Like if you touch it however gently, it will pop off, which is why they advise you to put a lock right there. I've seen people put in bolts and other things, so that's something I'm gonna have to deal with when the time comes. I'm not quite there yet. So the reason behind it is it's probably not gonna do it because Murphy's Law, but like normally, like let's just assume that it, right, normally the way it works is like bam and it pops off. So just keep that in mind. So the way it works, it has the railings, so that goes there, and then the second piece goes on the actual flat spot on your vehicle. So my goal today is using the tape measure, because this is still sitting there and my truck is all the way that way, is to affix this here and measure distance between bolts between here and here, so that I could determine what the width is in terms of like me mounting this, so that I could at least attach it to my pickup truck centrally located and actually in place. So the way this works is this piece slides into right there, and so once I have the two of them in place, I intend to measure. I guess the video isn't going to do it justice, but at the very least, to get you an idea of how this works, the one piece slides in the top rail, and the bottom piece is what basically gets attached. And then once the latch gets removed, the entire thing slides off the pins, yada yada yada, and that's how you could remove the tent. And same thing over there, right there. So what I have found, if you're going to be ordering the same Frontrunner kit, is that the distance between this corner, despite the fact that it's all dangly right now, to the same corner over there, when you make it true, is almost 28 inches, like 27 and 7/8. So that measurement is actually quite important, because we're talking about the distance between that rail and this rail, and that would be true on both sides. And so for the installation of those bottom pieces, which would be right there, the distance between this corner and the same corner on the other part should be 27 7/8. I'm on top of my truck, dangling precariously off the back of the truck. What I'm finding is that the bolt pattern I'm talking about, like holes don't align with the holes. Here's the problem. It would require drilling of 4 holes, and this thing is a pain in the ass to drill in the first place. Probably easier if you have to drill the hole the first time, but the problem is I don't know what the actual distances are. Reason being is because when I measured it, it was supposed to be 27 7/8, but it was all dangling and everything like that. So until I actually tighten things to how they ought to be in place, I could just be procrastinating about nothing. Either way, this pattern over there would align perfectly this way, right, with the holes. But the problem with that is my rails are not that far spread apart. And likewise, if you go like this, it means that, like, if you could fit a bolt right there, you still have to drill a hole. Like, there's physically no way to escape that. And again, this is one of those things where don't really have a lot of options at this point. I think what I'll do is I'll take this mechanism and tighten it on the tent itself with a 13 mil wrench, and then attempt to remeasure this, because otherwise, I mean, I could have been off by as much as an inch with it dangling. So very unfortunate, very unfortunate. But the misalignment right now is problematic, because at a minimum I'm gonna have to drill 4 holes. At a maximum I'm gonna have to drill 8. But this is how it's supposed to be. Like, this mechanism sits here, the other one sits there, and then here, and then you pull the lever, which is this right there, release it on all 4 corners, and then the tent could actually, well, slide forward and then up. And unfortunately, there's like no way I could do it in any other possible, just because of where the rails are and everything else. Very unfortunate. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news for myself, but I measured right the first time. It's 27 7/8. I tightened it to the point where I could still slide it, but it's kind of how it's supposed to be. And this is a really bad problem for me, for like 1,000 different reasons, because I really don't want to be drilling nothing. Oh my goodness, I am so frustrated by this. Now, here's the interesting little factoid. Theoretically, I could move the actual rails, but I have like no idea how they're fixed in there, like none whatsoever. And unfortunately, it is so darn cold that me messing with it It's probably easier to drill this than it would be to drill that. But the downside to this is, how in the world would you even drill the holes in the right places? Because it's a lot of measuring going on. You know, because I'm measuring off of like this corner over here, not the center line over there where presumably this rail is hung. I'm expecting that there's probably a bolt or something that's holding this rail in some way, shape, or form. I really don't know, and who knows? It could be adhered with a VHB tape for all that I know. Oh, that is so frustrating. Okay, well, since we've more or less established that, it means I'm gonna have to drill 8 holes, and I really don't want to be drilling 8 holes. So, braving Florida freeze, I had ice on top of this thing in the morning. For those of you that don't live in Florida, you might laugh about the fact that it's cold in Florida, but temperatures in Florida feel completely different because of levels of humidity and all this other stuff. But in any event, as you see, I have once again removed this thing that I swore to myself that I wasn't going to remove. Yesterday I went unpacked the rooftop tent just to see what the whole situation was, and there were 8 at a minimum bolts that I would have had to re-drill in a straight line, this and that, and the third, and I was like, okay, that's just too much. Then I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna drill 8 holes in this. And then I thought about it and thought about it. What if I drill the hole in the wrong place? You know, like at least with the slots over here, which don't align to anything, I could slightly move. And the longer I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute. Originally, I bought the bars, the load bars, right, that have the slot on them. And I'm like, what happens if I affix the bar to this and then I just move the rooftop tent along this? And so yesterday I kind of scrambled to make that plan into fruition. So this morning I'm doing exactly that. So the way this is going to work is the release brackets are going to be attached here, and I'm going to be able to slide them however I want based on, by the way, if you're doing this with a fresh start, buy once, cry once. Invest a little bit more money into a proper roof rack. I'm not saying you need $1,000 roof rack. I'm just saying, at the very least, make sure that all of the crossbars are like this with a slot. Because not being able to put your bolts right where you want them is one of the worst things that you could, because it's just stupid. Like, none of the holes on this thing align to anything. Like, they physically, I am so relieved that I wasn't in a position where I had a rooftop tent dangling on top of it precariously and trying to make it all work. It just doesn't align. Like, I don't know what they designed this for, but like, this physically cannot bolt anything. Like the typical pattern on a rooftop tent for the slots is completely different between, like, the bar space in here. If you look here, right, like there's no in between, so there's physically impossible. And likewise, the slots are in very specific places, so whatever. All right, let me point down a little bit. So the way this works is you could see some bolts protruding, right? So on the bottom of this over here, you could see a slot right there. And so this is attached to the rack. I'm about to tighten the bolts, and I'm gonna put the rack back and tighten the bolts again. And so at least that phase is going to be done. And then yesterday I've taken all the brackets that came with quick release mechanism, put bolts through them, so they just need to be put here. So once I get to it, I'll show you. A little bit further along, went ahead and tightened everything. Put Nylak blue back on the threads. So the front ones are not yet aligned properly. The back ones, I just tighten it just enough so that it holds in place. The philosophy behind it, as you can see, is that I could very freely adjust this whichever which way. You know, when you have pre-aligned holes or like pre-slotted holes and everything, I don't know, looking back, maybe this whole contraption was a mistake, maybe it wasn't. I'm still trying to figure out. Just between like, to get you an idea, this over here is about $110, and that over there, I think it was like 150 or something like that. So that's $250 versus an actual fancy schmancy rack costing like $1,000. Cheapest one I saw was $800. So, anywho, but the pin goes here, and then this locks and everything. And then, you know, the lock would also go there, or a bolt or something to further lock it in place. So my goal is to adjust the front ones, and then at least this portion is technically done. Theoretically speaking, I could put a tent up here already. Another day, instead of installing the rooftop tent, I have just purchased the world's most expensive nuts. I had to go to 10 stores to get nuts, only because Milford uses metric system, and that size nut doesn't in any event. Here's the problem, and this is an oversight on my end, and I'm gonna home in on these. If you look at this bolt right there, you could see a washer underneath of it. The thing is, when I initially bought these nuts that didn't come with the kit only came with 8 that go on the underside, but none to actually clamp anything to it. They only had 8, right? 8 of these, and because there's 8 studs, well, at a bare minimum I had 8. But my original goal was to sit a nut underneath this, so that this whole construction doesn't sit on the rails. This is the rail that came with the ARE topper. You could see it over there, and you could see it kind of gently touch over there. I have completely forgot to install the nuts because I didn't have them underhand. Had I had extra nuts, I would have been like, oh, well, where did they go? They need to go over there. Well, because I never bought the nuts, I didn't have enough. The store didn't have enough. 10 stores later, so this is 12 M12 by 1.25. That is such a rare thread pattern. It's not even funny. It's very difficult to find nuts, period. I'm talking about like these in that size. The only thing I was able to find is like 1 or maybe 2, and it's different companies that make them, and they make them different sizes, which I need all of them to be the same size. So I ended up going to Ace Hardware, and they actually sell, this is called a lock nut. I have no idea why it's called lock nut, because there's no like thread lock on it. But what I need to do now is, because of my faux pas, I need to lift this whole thing up. Out came the boxes again, Once I lift this up, the goal is to put never mind the shooting in the background. The goal is to put 2 nuts in there so that this whole thing actually sits on the nuts, and then is bolted to the nuts, and then it doesn't sit on this. Now, the reason why all of this have to be done is because currently Milford serves absolutely no purpose, because right now all it's doing is just anchoring this whole construction to the bolts without actually making them weight bearing, which means that all of the weight would have been on the rail. So good thing that I caught it, bad thing that I overlooked it. So I expect once I put the nuts, obviously it's gonna lift off the thing, and then this whole construction is going to be sitting on the nuts, which will be sitting on the Milford brackets and transferring, yada yada yada. So just, you know, on a different note, lifting it up like that is actually advantageous to me, because I very much wanted to slide the, I don't know, actually, yeah, now would be the right time to do it. Actually, I wanted to slide the thule brackets back in here. Since I'm lifting this up, I wasn't able to do it because of that over there. So my goal is, once this is lifted on the boxes, at least slide them back in, so that in the future, because this is now removable, for me to install the other cargo box and everything like that for when I need it, it's going to be here. It's going to be very quickly deployable and attachable and all of this. Alright, so this is what I was talking about. This is how I left it last time. As you see, this doesn't actually do anything. All of the pressure was actually here, not there. Right? So what I've done is I just gently screwed in a bolt over there, a nut, and the same washer that's been sitting over here is just going a smidge up, so that now all of the pressure is actually on this nut right there, instead of being here. I wish I could put 2 nuts in there, but I don't have enough thread to also do all of this on top of it. Very unfortunately, I wish I could put 2, but I'll take what I could get. So this is exactly what I'm doing. Alright, then I thread it all the way down, and then on top of it I just put this, so that when this whole contraption goes on top, there's a nut that the weight of this whole thing is sitting on. Alright, so this side is done, and as you can see, I've also slid the thule things back in here. I didn't tighten them or anything like that, but at least they're here, so that when I need to use them, I could, you know, align them properly and all this other stuff. But this over here and that over there is done, so now I just need to repeat on the other side. Alright, so once again, this thing was taken off, put back on. Those things are here. So the benefit to this is that I'm going to be able to reattach my storage box, I hope. I just have to worry about the actual space in between them. But this is more or less fixed, attached, and all sorts of things. One thing that I find a little bit concerning, there's about I don't know if camera is picking this up. If you hear that, So what's happening is let me see if I could. This right there is now, however, slightly higher than this. And what's happening is when you put enough pressure here, it's putting enough pressure there so that this touches that. Personally, I don't care. But what's happening is there's just a smidge of play and springiness in this entire cage. And it's, hear that? So it's doing the same thing on that side. Once I put the weight of rooftop tent on it, I'm not even gonna hear it because it's gonna be touching the rail, but it's just something that I have to deal with now. And it only happens like when you play with it. Like you physically have to yank on it hard enough. I'm pretty sure I could put like VHB tape in there, but if it drives me bananas, I probably will. So what does this mean? This means that theoretically speaking, I could put rooftop tent on here, even maybe today. Still have enough time. I don't know if it's a wise decision or not, but we'll get there.